You guys know when God created everything, the Bible says that He created everything and there was no sin. Wouldn't that be awesome to be able to go through life and not have any sin? Which literally means that there was no death, there was no crying, there was no sorrow. The Bible says that there was no separation, there was no temptation or all these things that this was brought in by sin at that time. And the Bible says that there was none of those things, that it was perfect, and God created it perfect. You guys know the story. Adam and Eve sinned. And the Bible says that sin was brought in the world, and you have to understand, let's say that this stage is that journey, okay? And we're walking through life, and all of a sudden, because sin was brought into the world, problems was brought into the world, and we kind of showed you that. And the Bible says there was different things. Let's say, what was the first one that we talked about this week? The Bible says that there was the tempter, there was temptation. And the Bible says in this journey that we have it's stuck there, and the devil sticks it there to where we come across in our life, and we have to sit there and go, okay, am I going to be tempted by this, or am I going to turn to God? The Bible says there's other things that you have to know, that there's things like peer pressure that's going to come into your life. And all of a sudden, before there was sin, and now we get this, and we think that we've got around this, and now we have that, and we're just saying, I just want to serve God. I just want to do what's right. I want to make it through this life. The Bible says that there's other things. I hate this one. There's pain. I hate it. You guys know there's things like cancer and car accidents. There's things like abuse and all this other stuff in this world. And the Bible says that came as a result of sin. And the Bible says there's peer pressure and things in our life because of sin. And the Bible says there's depression in this world because of sin. The Bible says all these things came from sin. You know, another one that a lot of people don't like to talk about. The Bible says the problem in this life is there's death. Everything in this world will eventually die. The grass outside will die. Every tree will die. It doesn't matter how they preserve a piece of metal, eventually it will rust away and it will die. Every animal will die. Every human being, when they're brought into the world, eventually they start off younger and they get older and they're older and older. And I'm not trying to be depressing, but I'm telling you guys the truth. Eventually we're going to come to the point in our life where we're going to die. And I hate to tell you guys that this is just the world that we live in. And you guys are at the beginning of that, and you're going to come into the point in your life where you're going to face temptation. And then you're going to face where your family has a hard time, and then you're going to face some sort of tragedy, and you're sitting there going, I'm supposed to be going through this life and this journey, and I feel like I'm all alone, and I can't do this. And these things are too strong, and they're too big for us to handle. Then we've learned something. There's greater things than just the problems in this world, because even in the middle of the problems that we have, Jesus gave us some promises. You know, one of the greatest promises that He gave us in this world is He gave us the promise of salvation. So when we realize that there's sin and I can't handle sin and sin's going to destroy my life and one day I'm going to die and there's nothing I can do to change that, the Bible says that when we realize that, we surrender our lives. And Jesus said, whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And I cry out and I say, God, I ask you to come into my life. And Lord, I realize that there's sin in this world and I can't handle sin. And Lord, I can't do it. But I ask you, God, forgive me. Come into my life. Something happens. Now I'm in this world, but I'm not alone. See, Jesus made me the promise of salvation. He made me a promise that when I call out to Him, the Bible says if I would confess with my mouth because I believe in Jesus. Now here's the thing, I can't see Jesus, but let me tell you, I know He's there. And I can cry out to Him and I know that He's there. And the Bible says not only did He give me the promise of salvation, He gave me another promise. Listen to this. He told me that He's going to be a friend that sticks closer than a brother. He told me, my Jesus told me that when He comes into my life, He promised me He would never leave me. He would never forsake me. Now see, when I pray and I ask Jesus to come in my life, I'm still going to face temptation. But I'm not going to face it alone, because I can cry out and say, Jesus, please help me. I don't want to fail, and I don't want to mess up. And Lord, I just... And there's a power. It's greater than that problem. And I tell you, sometimes we face problems with our families. You get there and the devil wants to trip you up with it, and you sit there and say, man, my mom and dad argue, or they went separate ways, or my mom and dad are struggling with money, or there's a chance that we might lose our house. And you know what? We don't like to talk about those things, but those are real problems in life. And as you guys get older, you're going to realize that in this life, there are problems. And I sit there and I feel like, God, I feel like I'm all alone. And God, I feel like I can't do this on myself. And I just say, Jesus, you said for me to cast my care upon you, because you care for me. Although I can't see him, I know he's there. And guys, just so you know that Jesus speaks to me all the time. He speaks to me when I come to church. And I'm sitting there and somebody opens the Bible and they start telling me about it. Jesus speaks to me through his word, and he speaks to me when I pray. And he speaks to me. And not in an audible, but it's in my heart. It's not that I can see him, but it's just like I know that he's there. He lets me know that he's there. Can I tell you guys, because we live in a world of sin, sometimes we're going to face a temptation. Maybe you get mad at your parents and you trip up and you sit there and go, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. And we get all upset and think, I know better, and I'm a Christian, I shouldn't do that. And I think, oh God, I'm sorry. And I feel like God's so mad at me. But here's the thing. I claim the promise. He said he would never leave me. Even when I'm bad. Even when I'm bad. So I say, God, I'm sorry. Lord, will you forgive me, because I made that mistake. And guys, here's the thing. One day, I don't know when it's going to be, but I'm here to tell you the Bible says it's appointed on men once to die. That literally means that none of us have a promise tomorrow. None of us know when it is. But I'm here to tell you guys, one day in our life, we are going to die. It might be from a car accident. It might be because we just get really old and we die. It might be from a sickness. But I'm here. The Bible says I'm going to die. And you say, doesn't that make you afraid? Aren't you afraid of dying? And see, the thing is, Jesus said he would never leave me nor forsake me. And yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Do you know why I will fear no evil? Because he is with me. And guys, here one day, when I have to face death, I'm not going to be facing it alone. Because Jesus said he would go with me till the end. And I know, guys, that this is just a guy acting like Jesus. But can I tell you, everything that I laid out up here is the truth? Can I tell you that Jesus did say in the middle of a world of sin and complications and all the things that the devil has thrown out there, because this is just life. This is life. And guys, if you think you're going to go through this life and think that I can handle it, when you get older and you're facing temptation and there's drugs and alcohol and sin and lust and all that other stuff, here's the thing. We will fall on our faces. We will trip up. We cannot do it. And a lot of people are making a mess of their life because we were not made to go through this life without Jesus. And that's the truth. And a lot of people feel lost and they feel frustrated and they feel confused because of all this. But I get to the best part. And sometimes we emphasize this so much, but Paul said, I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of Jesus Christ. You see, one day, it's not just going to be the presence of Jesus that's there. It's going to be literally the presence of Jesus. And the Bible says that the prize, it's one thing to face the problems. It's another thing to great to have the promises through there. One day, I'm going to have the prize of heaven. And it's not the prize like we're thinking that all of a sudden it's something that I've done, but he's done all this because he loves me. And one day the prize that I'm going to have is I'm going to be with Jesus. And the Bible says when I've gone through life and I faced things and I told people about Jesus Christ and I pointed people to Him, and I've lived my whole life because I want to honor Him through all of the things that I do. I'm doing that because one day I'm going to kneel at the feet of Jesus and I want Him to be honored with my life. And the Bible says God's going to give us these rewards in heaven. Guys, I don't deserve any rewards. But the Bible says that we get rewards for being faithful and for telling other people about Jesus. And here's the thing that I want you guys to understand. When I'm going through this life, I want to do these things and I want to obey my mom and dad because I love Him, not because I have to. And a lot of people make church all about what I have to do. No, I get to do these things because I have something special in Jesus. And so the Bible says that we got this great reward that I get to take with me because I've honored Him. And I want to take those rewards that Jesus has given me and all the things that I've done in my life. You know what I do? I cast them down at the feet of Jesus. Because all that I've did in this life, I was able to overcome because of Him. He is the greatest thing that has ever happened to get us through this life. The greatest thing. And one day I will die, but I get the prize of knowing I've got the rewards, I've got heaven, and I get Jesus with me.